Hi everybody, Randy Wong here again. Today we're going to continue my discussion on Charles Fitzsimons. Back in 1994, J.R. Goodman, my partner at the time, and I had a sit-down interview with Charles Fitzsimons. It was a fascinating interview. He told us that William Dozier, who was the executive producer of the show, was really hands-on. He was a hands-on executive. He was involved in approving basically every aspect of the show, from the costume design to the scripts. He and Fitzsimons would review the daily raw footage that was being shot, and they would sign off on the footage to be used in the final cut. They were involved in the costumes as well and the weaponry. And Fitzsimons indicated that Dozier's company, which was Greenway Productions, had a special relationship, an advertising relationship with Chrysler. And it was the 1966 Chrysler Imperial that was used as the body for the Black Beauty, the custom car of the Green Hornet and Kato. And as we all know, it was Dean Jeffries who built the car, and he built it basically to Dozier's specifications. Dozier wanted the lines of the Imperial, but he told Jeffries he did not want the chrome. He said it had to be like jet black, sleek. So, and as we all know, the car turned out to be absolutely gorgeous. And it was Fitzsimons who basically sold the licensing rights for the Black Beauty, as far as the Black Beauty model kit. Fitzsimons negotiated a licensing contract with Aurora Plastics back in 1966. Aurora Plastics was the number one plastic model and toy company in the U.S. at the time. They were established in 1950. They no longer exist now, but they were responsible for the Universal Monsters in the 1960s. That was extremely popular and successful. But Aurora wanted the licensing rights to build a miniature, a toy model of the Black Beauty. Now, Fitzsimons negotiated that contract, and what he did was he told Aurora that if they wanted the licensing rights, they would have to agree to create not only the Black Beauty miniature, but they had to agree to create a miniature of Britt Reed's car, the Chrysler convertible, which was a Chrysler 300. I think it was a 1965 model. But they had to agree to create the miniature, whether or not they would use that miniature to build a model for marketing purposes, to sell. So, and Aurora agreed. And those miniatures, the Black Beauty miniature and the Chrysler convertible miniature, was used in the show. As we all know, when Van Williams as the Green Hornet and Bruce Lee as Kato was ready to venture into the night, they would activate. Kato would go to the garage with the Green Hornet, and Kato would activate the car, and the garage floor would rotate to reveal the Black Beauty hidden underneath the garage floor. And that scene, to this day, is one of the most amazing scenes ever done in TV history, in my eyes anyway. I mean, the sheer magic of that, with the Black Beauty underneath rotating up, along with the sound of the garage floor activated and rotating, and the green lights. I mean, it just it was just a fantastic scene that was just riveting for, the audience. I mean, as a young child, as a young person watching that particular scene, it's still one of the best scenes I've witnessed ever on TV. We asked Fitzsimons if Van Williams portrayed the Green Hornet the way that he and Dozier envisioned. And Fitzsimons says that yes, that Van and Dozier had discussed how to portray the character. They knew they couldn't do it in the same campy style as Batman. They knew they couldn't do it half-heartedly or light-heartedly, that the character had to be convincing. You had to believe, the audience had to believe that the character was real. And that Van Williams did. His portrayal was dead on, the way it should be. The Green Hornet came alive with Van Williams' portrayal. And combine that with Bruce Lee, and the combination was just phenomenal. To this day, it's a cult classic. And we then asked Fitzsimons what caused the show to be canceled. And there were two things. One was obviously the ratings were not there, but Fitzsimons said that back in 1966, there were a lot of TV critics that were complaining or expressing concern over the violence that they saw in that TV show. I mean, the show was geared towards a general audience, primarily young adults. And so in 1966, most fights were basically punch to the face, maybe the guy was thrown across the room or out the window, but it was just a very Western style of fight, very quick, obviously no kicking. And so when Bruce Lee came on, portraying Kato as lethal as the character was, with kicks to the throat, kicks to the groin, and Kato with his darts that he utilized with deadly accuracy. All these things combined to create a level of violence that TV audience had never seen before. So that outcry and concern, along with the low ratings, it just caused the downfall of the show. I mean, if it had lasted beyond 1 year, beyond one season, it probably would have gotten the eventual audience that it has, it was targeted towards. But as fate would have it, it just, there were too many things stacked against it, with the concern over the violence, and the fact that a lot of people were expecting, when the show came out, a lot of the audience was expecting a second version of Batman with different characters, and of course that didn't happen. Fitzsimons then talked about Bruce Lee portraying Kato in the Green Hornet. Fitzsimons said to us that when you're watching the Green Hornet, you're not seeing Bruce Lee portraying Kato. You're seeing Bruce Lee portraying Bruce Lee. Kato was Bruce Lee. Kato's mannerisms, his cat-like reflexes and movements, his phenomenal speed, the way he walked, the way he moved, his glare, his attitude, that was all 100% Bruce Lee. We then asked Fitzsimons if there was any truth to the stories that Bruce may have accidentally injured stuntmen on the set of the Green Hornet. Fitzsimons looked at me and said, "No way. there's no way that happened. He said Bruce Lee was a master. He had 100% control over his body. And Bruce Lee worked that body for at least 4 hours a day, religiously, he said. Fitzsimons then added, yes, accidents do happen on the set, but if you're asking me if Bruce Lee caused injury to stuntmen due to a lack of control on his part, no way, it did not happen. Fitzsimons then looked at me straight in the eyes and said, Bruce Lee could knock a fly off your eyebrow without moving the hairs. Fitzsimons said Bruce Lee was phenomenal! Exclamation point. Amazing story. So this ends my second video on the interview I had with Fitzsimons in 1994. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.